Hello, hello. Good afternoon, everybody. Happy Thursday. We're going to get ready to do a first type of, or a new sort of live that we haven't done before here today. A lot of times you guys join us because we are launching products and that sort of thing. But today we are going to be diving into a business topic that I think is going to be of really great interest to folks who are new to a business or even folks who have already started a business but are looking to refine this really important aspect, which is branding. So I'm Erin, by the way. I work here at CandleScience. I am a longtime candle maker and I help create content to support you folks who want to start and grow businesses. And we have a really special guest with us today. This is Lysandra Weber. Lysandra is both a maker and a marketing consultant. And so she brings over 13 years of experience as a maker with your business, Geek Chic Fashion, which is a handmade clothing business. And many moons ago, I actually had met Lysandra doing markets in the area because we both live here in North Carolina. And Lysandra also brings an MBA from UNC in business, and she is a has marketing experience that spans a couple decades now, right?
Yeah.
And I know, right? We both of us with our big ages over here. But hopefully this experience will help you guys. But yeah, Lysandra has done marketing for a number of businesses, including Burt's Bees, which some of you might be familiar with, along with Brooklyn Brewery, just to name a few. So I'm really excited that she's going to be teaching us today all about how to create a unified brand experience, which is, yeah, I'm excited because that was something when I had my businesses, I didn't know about branding initially, and it was something I kind of had to like work backwards into, and it would have been so helpful to have had a better understanding of what branding is from the outset. So Lysandra's going to be teaching us in a few minutes, but I also wanted to go through a couple of housekeeping things before we get started. So the first thing is we're going to have a Q&A section after Lysandra finishes teaching. So feel free to go ahead and drop your questions in the chat, and then we will get to them in the latter part of today's workshop and session. Let me check my notes real quick. Oh, we also have, so we put together a little workbook, which is linked in the description. And so I would recommend just watching the live today, being present while Lysandra teaches, and then grab that download afterwards because there is an exercise in the workbook to help you like define your brand and that sort of thing. And because this live is recorded, you can rewatch as well. So if you want to like come back to it later, go back through the teachings and then fill out your workbook and get some clarity on what you want your brand to be and how that can look and be expressed. So be sure to check that out in the description box. And then let's see, let me double check here because there's a number of things. The other thing I wanted to mention really quick, since we're on the topic of business education, we had recently launched a couple weeks ago our new Maker Business Hub. And so I'm going to give you guys a quick peek of it if you haven't already seen it. Thank you, Casper. So when you come to the CandleScience homepage, we now have up here in the main navigation, the Business Hub. So if you want to click on that, this is taking you to a new homepage in the site here where you can dive into all of the articles, guides, calculators, tools. We have, I think, pushing 100 different content pieces as well as videos. So in the Business Hub here, we have all of the content organized in a few different ways to hopefully make it as easy as possible for you to find what is going to be most helpful for you. And so the first way to take a look at the Business Hub content is to choose your business stage. So whether you are just getting started and if you're growing your business or even at the point where you're really ready to scale and expand, we have content organized so that you can just jump right in to the articles and videos that will be most helpful to you at this point in your business journey. The other way, or another way to look at the content here is to just go by topic. So there's a lot of, kind of main topics that we have created content around and that we know that you guys are looking for. So that includes the products, packaging, and pricing as a really fundamental part of your business, along with the logistics of setting up a business. So things around insurance, and your business structure, a lot of the nitty gritty we cover in this bucket of content. Plus, of course, marketing, tips for selling and growing, tools and resources, which include our wax guide, our wick guide, calculators to help you scale your batches of candles, make room sprays, and that sort of thing. Those can all be found in the tools and resources section. And inspiration is always important. So over the years, we have profiled a lot of different makers. And so if you're looking for inspo that come from your fellow, solo and entrepreneurs and creatives, check out the Maker Story section. And so then the last main area is our business videos. We do have videos that are incorporated into these first two sections that I've talked about, but if you just want to see all of the videos in one place, you can do that by clicking this link to check out our business videos. And we have started also releasing weekly mini videos called Making Sense. So it's a little bit of a play on words, but it's sensible business info for fragrance-based product makers. And so you'll find those drops in the business videos section of the hub as well. So thank you, Casper, for letting me show that off. So yeah, I think we are ready for you to jump right in, Lysandra. So I will hand it over to you.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for the introduction and for showing everybody how to use the Business Hub. That's a pretty great resource.
Yeah. We have created a lot of content over the years, but it has never been organized so well. And so we're really excited to just hear from folks to see, what on the site is helpful. And we were always also interested to know what you would like us to create business content around to help you and support you in your journey. So you can always email us at support@CandleScience or leave us a comment on social. But yeah, we'd love to hear your feedback because this was a really big project that we're so excited to get out into the world.
That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, when I started my business, also could have used a Business Hub. So
yes, I wish that had existed for me because I had to do a lot of research on my own for a very long time to try to make sense of these things. So hopefully this flattens the learning curve for other folks.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And today we will expand upon that and we'll talk about creating a unified branding experience. So if you don't know what that means creating a consistent branding experience throughout all the touch points that your customers have. So if we take a look at what we're going to talk about today on the agenda, we are going to talk about what branding is, where it shows up, why is a unified branding experience important, and then we're going to talk about some examples because that's where the real learning happens, is when we can see it in action. All right, so one thing that I want you to remember throughout this conversation is that it's called the rule of 7. It takes a potential customer 7 times seeing your brand before they remember it. That's called, in marketing speak, being in the consideration set. So keep that in mind as I'm telling you all of these interesting tools, topics, tips for how to create that unified brand experience. All right. If we keep moving and we talk about what branding actually is, it's creating that distinct identity that resonates with your audience, right? And I have to say, as a person who's done marketing for 2 decades, branding does not equal marketing. I'm going to try and remember this analogy. Branding is like the reason that you go on a date with somebody, and marketing is the asking of going on the date, right? And the saying yes. So like, branding is all of the reasons why people would want to work with you. It's your visual identity, your messaging, your positioning. And then the marketing is all the tactical activities that support and answer the questions about why. So how do you ask a customer to purchase from you? How do you build that relationship with them in email and social media? So it's the how. And what we're going to talk about today is the branding. So the branding is what it looks like and feels like to be in community with you, to be one of your customers. So that encompasses 3 areas. It's your visual identity, your messaging, and your positioning. And we're going to dive a little bit deeper into each one of those. So for your visual identity, that is, you can go to the next slide too. It encompasses your logo, your colors, and the imagery that you use. So I always like to tell people to keep your logo simple, versatile, memorable, timeless, and appropriate. Now I say timeless, but if we look at big brands, they have updated their logos over time, and that is fine. You can do that. Do not do it every 6 months. Do not do it every month. You need that consistency. If I say to you, who is the Golden Arches? Everybody here can tell me that it's McDonald's, right? Because you know that because that is the consistent imagery they've had over the years. And then if we talk about your colors, now it is truly up to you to pick what colors you want. And colors evoke feelings. So if you look at, there's sort of a color theory around different colors. Each color that you choose can make people feel a certain way, right? So they say that the color red makes people feel hungry. So if you look at fast food restaurants and how many of them have red as part of their color scheme, you will notice there's a lot.
I never thought about that.
Right?
But
Chick-fil-A, McDonald's, there's
Wendy's,
a lot. KFC, there's a lot.
There's a lot of red happening.
And then blue is sort of a soothing and calming color. Pastels are like calming and soothing. So thinking about what you want to evoke in your customer experience, when you're choosing your colors is really important. And then the imagery that you use, right? So the example that I give on my slides is from my brand, Geek Chic Fashion. So part of my brand was creating modern, stylish, and comfortable clothing that's perfect for any body, right? And so I want to show women feeling happy and comfortable no matter what size or shape they are. So I was very intentional about choosing imagery of women of all sizes. I will also tell you, those are all my friends. They are not models. They are people in my community who are real women with real jobs. All these people have jobs, pretty important jobs. One of them is a candle maker that y'all might know. If you know, tell me in the comments. But they're all people that I know because part of my brand was about really being personable and authentic and showing real people using my products. So I was very intentional about the images, and I want you guys to do the same in your brands as well. And then if we go back to messaging is the words and the language that you use on the next slide that really helps you communicate who your brand is, right? Your tone. So say you are really into the science of scent, right? Your tone might be more authoritative, knowledgeable, instead of being like cheeky and friendly and personable. You might come across more as an authority figure. And then I always create these two sections called who you are and who you are not. And this is good for you to know as you're writing and thinking about how you want to communicate. But also if you ever were to hire somebody to do your social media or any of your marketing writing for you, having them have this clear understanding of what language that you use is really important. Again, this is an example from my clothing business because it's most salient to me. But using words like honest, empowering, playful is who we are and who we are not, right? We are not body shaming. We are not negative, cruel, offensive. We're not haters. Like, that's very important to me because there are a lot of fashion brands who are like, oh, don't use that other fashion brand.
Right,
because
there's like a snarkiness and that's not part of Geek Chic.
And like, I will also say, this is going back to the imagery, but I always showed my models being happy. I think a lot of what we see in a lot of photography, but in fashion in particular, is sad, hungry looking models.
Right.
And I did not want that. So I made happy people, right? I cultivated a mood of happiness around the products. And that is really important.
Yeah,
right?
Because like in my mind, our brands do have personalities.
Yes.
And so if you kind of want to think about it through that sort of lens, then that informs all of the things that you outlined here in the messaging.
That's right.
Because people, if you think about people who have different personalities, that means they communicate in different ways.
That's right.
They express themselves in different ways.
Right.
And so the same can apply for a business, even though it's not a person.
That's right. And I think writing it down is an act of solidifying it in your mind and then in anybody who works at your company's mind as well. So I challenge you, and you will see in the notebook when you download it, to take some time and write it down. The communication guidelines are also important. So this is sort of about how you want to communicate with people. And the second bullet point on here is really important to me, and that like, we're nice and smart people. We don't worry about the naysayers. So there's always somebody, as small business owners, we know, who's going to come in and have something negative to say about your brand, right? Part of my communication guidelines, we don't pay attention to those people.
Right.
We focus on all of the potential customers out there who are waiting and excited to get to know the brand. And so you have to make that decision for your company. Are you going to spend time trying to convince people who are naysayers? Or are you going to spend time really focusing on telling people your story and what it is about your products that they should be excited about?
Right. And then let the people who resonate with that, like,
that's right,
opt
come
in
to you.
And
That's
come
right.
to you. And then the other folks, they will hopefully just
see themselves out.
Exactly. Yep.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And then if we keep moving on to your position statement. So this is a statement that helps define who you are in the marketplace. And I think when we start a business, we all sort of have a sort of intuitive understanding of who that is and what we're trying to be. But again, writing it out really solidifies it. And this is a description that explains who your target audience is, what you help them do, and how you do that compared to your competitors, right? So the example that I give, it's a simple framework. You have used it with some of my coaches in the past, is I help blank to do or solve blank so that they can blank, right? And you fill it in for your business. I help people of all sizes and shapes to embrace their shape in modern, stylish, and comfortable clothing so they can let their inner fashionista shine comfortably and confidently, right? So making sure that you are super clear on all three aspects of your position statement, because as we'll see in some of the examples, I'll talk about a soap company, but it's not just any soap company, right? They have positioned themselves as a cocktail soap company, and we'll see what that means. But really having an understanding of what your differentiation is so that you can find the people who are really interested in buying your products is so important.
Yeah, because I feel like, this day and age, there's, so many online brands and businesses that are competing for our attention.
Yeah.
When a brand is really clear about obviously what they make and who it's for,
That's
that
right.
allows us to quickly identify oh, this feels like something that's for me,
That's right.
And then, it kind of cuts through a lot of the noise.
Right.
And you can hook people in
Yeah.
when you have that clarity.
It goes back to that rule of 7 too, right?
Yes.
Like the more times they hear your consistent message across your brand, the more times they're going to remember. And when it comes time to think about buying that candle, they're going to be like, oh, I loved what so-and-so said about the story around this, and it resonated with me. I feel like that's me right now, and I need that candle.
Yeah, and so many times we buy from a place of emotion.
That's right.
So, obviously price comes into play for sure too, but I think undergirding, at least in my experience over the years, it's that emotional connection and resonance that really can make a big difference in whether someone goes from just browsing to then actually buying.
Yeah, absolutely. That is 100% true.
Yeah.
We'll get into that more later too.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't want to
No,
jump
you're good.
in too much or get too ahead, but
It's good.
It's sparking lots of ideas and
Yes.
thoughts.
Yeah. All right. If we keep going, where does your branding show up? So this is the crux of the unified branding experience here, right? So if we look at the next slide, we can see literally everywhere. That is the basic answer, right? Your brand is everywhere. It's on your social media, your website, your email, in person. Any way that a customer engages with you, that is where your branding is. And that's what we're talking about today. How are we making it consistent across every single one of those touch points? And I'll go into each one of those next. So if we look at social media, exactly what we were just talking about, the authenticity and consistency here is where you win, right?
Yes.
It's where customers can relate to you, they understand what you're selling, and they understand how your products are going to improve their lives, whether that's in making a fragrant home or wearing clothes that make them feel like themselves, where you want to show that on social media so that they understand who you are and what you offer. And that branding, what we just talked about in the previous section, is how you're going to do that, right? And it has to be super consistent from post to post and, again, across all these touch points. And then if we think about website, right? Your website is your digital calling card. It is, if somebody thinks of your brand or they're interested in a candle, it's the first place that they're going to go to find out more information about you. So it needs to very accurately and consistently convey who you are. Those colors need to come through strong because it's a very visual medium. And then the words that you use, how you describe your brand and welcome people into your environment are very important. And then if we go to email, again, this is a captive audience. So these are people who have opted in to being in your community, to doing business with you. It's where you want to help them get to know you. And this is not just in the emails that you send on a weekly or monthly basis. This, we want to talk about the transactional emails as well. So when a customer orders from you, are you putting order confirmation or are you going to have a fun, cheeky way of saying order confirmation that aligns with your brand?
Yes.
Or a more scientific way of saying order confirmation, right? Every opportunity that you send or communicate with your customer is an opportunity to let your brand shine.
And that personality coming through again, right?
That's
And
exactly
those word
right.
choices and that sort of thing.
That's exactly right. And that's where the who we are and who we are not really comes in handy. Because you're like, okay, if we are this sassy, playful company, how can we say, even in the errors on your website, right? How can you say 404 error in a fun way that aligns with your brand or in a very serious way? That's like, okay, the robots on the back end are having a malfunction. Please hold, right? So thinking about all of the opportunities you have to have your brand come through in the communications that you have. And then finally is in person, right? So I know that a lot of us probably do pop-up markets or trunk shows or in-store occasionally. And how people engage with you when you're in person is also part of your branding. Now, I am not saying that you have to wear your brand colors Although
I would do that honestly, though, just partly because I almost had like a uniform that I like when I was doing markets, because I wasn't doing like tons of them, but like once or twice a month and that sort of thing. And I had a few like go-to outfits that complemented all of the other colors of my business because I don't know, I think that's fun.
I say
it does
that
create that cohesion.
Yeah, I say that, and also I'm wearing a purple shirt, and it's one of my brand colors.
Right.
I definitely hear that. Actually, there's a gentleman at one of my networking groups who is known as the man in green. He wears Kelly green, a full Kelly green suit, a Kelly green tie, a Kelly green hat. He drives a Kelly green car. And he's been known as the man in green for decades.
Yeah, he's established his own brand.
It's wild.
Very effectively,
now,
it sounds like.
You do not have to go that far. But incorporating so when I had my clothing company, I would wear the clothes from my collection. Because if I didn't, everybody would be like, "Did you make that?" And I'd be like, "No, I just wore it because it's cute." But making sure that not only like how you show up, but the way that you set up is representative of your brand. So we're going to take a look at some people's, a showroom that someone has, and then their booth setup in an outdoor market. So I can sort of show you what that looks like. So if you have, say you have a luxury body spray brand, and you use like high-end jars and spray bottles and things, but then when you go to market, you use milk crates to set everything on.
Right.
No.
That doesn't line up.
Those two things do not match, right? So your branding is also how you show up in the world, right? Think about, how can I elevate my brand to match my products? Or how can I make it more casual if I have a more casual product, right? You always want it to align with the look and feel of what you've cultivated for your brand.
Yeah, because that can look like, just the types of finishes you're using for any sort of like display and merchandising pieces.
That's right.
Table covers, sign. It just, it literally does touch every aspect of that.
Yeah. It does. I mean, I've seen people use old suitcases as like open with a display and you hang things inside.
Yeah.
I've seen tablecloths. Sometimes people use shower curtains.
Oh.
I had a friend who did watercolor, and she found a watercolor shower curtain with flowers on it, and it actually worked.
It worked really well.
Yeah, because that was her vibe.
Right.
Whatever works, just make sure that it is really in alignment with the branding pieces and the elements that we talked about earlier. And if we keep going, we can talk about why is it important, right? And we sort of touched on this, right? That emotional connection.
Circling around it for sure here.
For sure. But why is a unified brand experience important? So we're going to take it back. And I've said it a couple of times already. It takes 7 times for a potential customer, to see your brand before they remember it. And like, if you think about what that means, it's like they meet you in person, then they follow you on social media. They see maybe 1 or 2 of your posts on social media. Then they're like, "Oh, this is cool. Let me sign up for the email." They get the intro email and maybe a supplementary email. And then they see you on, I don't know, a news story, right? That's 7 times. That's a lot of touch points. It's a lot of times for a customer to have to engage with you. But 6 of the 7 of those are things you control, right? If you are not posting on social media, they are not going to see you there. If you're not sending an email, they are not going to see you there. And also, if every time they see you, it feels like a different brand, they're not going to remember that it's you, because they're going to think they've seen 7 different brands. So that consistency of messaging is so important. And then on the next slide, we'll see that the emotional connection, which is exactly what you alluded to earlier, Erin, that is a key part of why we want that unified brand experience. There's storytelling, community building, and authenticity, right? You're able to tell the story of your brand. I think one of the things that I've said a lot is that part of what sets creative businesses apart from other types of businesses is there's a story behind why we started what we started. There's a reason why we decided to make candles. There's a reason why we decided to make clothes. And telling that story so that people understand that builds an emotional connection between them and your brand. And it helps them really resonate and remember who you are and what you offer. And then community building. I'm a big, big proponent of relationship marketing, right? I don't call it my customer base. I call it my community of loyal followers. And I'm always about community building. And the technical language for that in marketing is called inbound marketing. So it's people who come to you versus people you like push your marketing message out to. And so building that community, I used to have people when I did markets. So this is a matcha company. I met them at a market in Asheville, and it was a yoga festival. And when I would do that yoga festival, I'd post about it on social media. My customers would come from Asheville. I live in Raleigh, North Carolina. It's like 3 hours apart. My customers would come to the market and find me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Some of them come wearing my clothes just to say hello.
Oh,
it was so
how
sweet.
Special.
Right? It was so sweet. And like, I didn't ask them to come. I just was like, this is where I'll be.
Right.
They didn't buy anything new. They just came to say hello and get a hug.
Which is a testament to that relationship, aspect and the community building aspect of your marketing and branding.
And it's really powerful. And another example of that is during the pandemic, right? I'm not sure how many of you were in existence during the pandemic. It was rough. We all know. And the mail was outside of our control.
Yes.
Right? We could not control when something got, once we shipped it, we're like, maybe
Fingers
2
crossed.
weeks. I don't know. And I was so worried about how customers were going to respond to that. But because I had built this community, because my brand was transparent and clear and authentic, customers gave me so much grace. They were like, don't worry about it. It's fine. One customer's order just disappeared. She ordered like 10 face masks in California, just disappeared. And she's like, just put it at the bottom of your stack. Don't worry about it.
Oh,
I was like, what? You don't want it like tomorrow?
Right.
But people had so much grace because they knew that I was A, a real person, and B, that I was really trying to do something good with my brand during that time. And when you cultivate that, I heard so many stories from so many other makers who were like, my customers are yelling at me, they're angry. And, because I never got experienced that because I was able to build those relationships.
Yeah, to have such a strong amount of goodwill.
That's right. That's right.
Customers.
Yeah. And that also ties into the authenticity, right? Be who you are and share what you're bringing to the world. And that builds that emotional connection, right? The branding that you put out there, the way that you talk to your customers is part of your branding, the way that you engage with them, and being really authentic in that way so that they know that you're not a robot in a back room manufacturing whatever. You're a real human with real responsibilities, both inside and outside of your business. And you're just trying to offer them something beautiful and good in this world. Exactly. So I think that is really important to build the emotional connection and have that unified brand experience. Yep. All right. And if we go to the next slide, let's explore some examples. All right.
The computer went
my
to sleep,
computer
so
went off.
Wake that up real quick.
So, we're going to explore 3 examples of branding that I particularly love. These are all people that I know, so I sort of have an inside view of their businesses and what they stand for. But we're going to start with bright black candles. A lot of you are probably familiar with bright black candles. I love them dearly. Tiffany, I don't know if anybody put it in the comments, Tiffany, the owner of Bright Black Candles, was one of my models. And she's a dear friend. So I love Bright Black Candle and their unified branding experience because they are so consistent across every single customer touch point, right? So these are 2 of their candles. And it's part of their, I don't remember what the name of the series was.
Yeah, I'm blanking on it in this moment.
But so the idea behind Bright Black Candles, it is candles that express Black brilliance and talk about the Black diaspora. So it's scents that align with that. And Tiffany has like an advanced degree in like it's sociology or something like that. She's a very smart human being. And she does some really beautiful storytelling about the Black diaspora and brings it into her scents, into the notes that the fragrance notes that she selects to put in her candles. And then she tells you the story about it. And it is absolutely beautiful. And the color theme for bright black candles is black on black. And people don't always remember that or recommend that or think that it's a good idea. But it is a really powerful way for her brand to come across. And if we take a look at her website, let's see if we can do that here. Like you can see that she primarily uses black backgrounds for her candles and for the photography. The candles are lit. She uses, it's about the Black diaspora and Black brilliance. She uses Black people's hands. They're mostly her own and her husband's. But like it's a small element, but it's relevant to her brand and communicates what it's about. And she does a brilliant job of bringing the imagery with the Black backgrounds, even beyond the candles. Her fragrance lines have the beautiful Black backgrounds. They bring in imagery that communicates, I guess if I hover over it, that communicates what the fragrance notes are in it, which is a very clever and good way. But like, it's not the primary image, right? So you can see that when you scroll over it, you're able to see that imagery and tie it to what is this fragrance going to smell like. And then I wanted to show you this Instagram as well. And this is a story that Tiffany sort of tells. I'm not going to have the audio on, but you can go back to her Instagram and watch it. But I wanted to show you because it's in her showroom. And Tiffany's showroom is another beautiful example of how her brand comes to life, right? So she has, like you'll see on the wall behind her, she has all of the fragrances that she uses in her candles when she does. She also met Zendaya. Yeah. What? She has all of her fragrances on the wall in the background, which is a beautiful way for people to visually see the vast selection of fragrances that go into making candles, whether it's through her candle workshops or through her own candle collection.
Right, the finished products.
And then she has also, there's a lot of I know, Zendaya in there. But she also has these domes where she has fragrances inside them as well. She has one wall that's entirely black that has like the fragrances on it that you can see. And her whole brand experience comes to life in her showroom. And it's a really amazing experience to be in there, to like, the tables are black. I mean, it all, like, she was very thoughtful and intentional about every single item that she put in her showroom. She has splashes of color, which bring to life like the playfulness of the brand as well. But really wanted to show you, like, how does it come to life in person? How can you really communicate what a brand is through a visual in-person experience?
Yeah, and having those brand colors also, I think, is super helpful because it allows you to narrow down like the choices that you're making when you're having to, do things like this, whether it's for your, booth, pop-up tent, stuff like that.
Yeah.
It can make it easier so that you're not having to consider all possibilities.
All
like,
options.
okay, these are the 3 main colors that are part of my brand, and oftentimes like choosing details.
Yes,
right, that
absolutely.
showcase those colors then.
Absolutely. And you know it's going to like tie together.
Exactly.
Because you've already picked them for that reason.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. And then we're going to talk about Matcha Nude.
Yes.
So Matcha Nude is a matcha company, matcha and hojicha company based out of Asheville. And again, I met them at that yoga festival. And was I a matcha drinker before? Not really. But they had a beautiful space. So you can see their packaging here. It is, I've had this one for a long time. But it is, First Whisk is one of their new products, and Matcha Nude, this is the original matcha that they had. And they do a really good job of having that soft green and bringing in like complementary colors into their branding.
Very calming looking. Just, even you can see this is the older version of their packaging. Still, you get that.
Yeah.
It's very natural.
That's right. Yeah. And they use that natural, like the craft paper, natural colors and textures, and even in her booth display, along with that green, as like a visual cue that this is matcha's this color, but also this is part of their brand identity.
Yeah.
And it comes across really clearly. And her booth had like flowers and like vines and like beautiful things in it. And then part of the experience though in person was what she offered to people. She didn't just put packages of matcha up and be like, buy this matcha. She created a matcha drink because one of the tenets of their brand is how easy it is to create drinks and food from matcha. And so she wanted to show people how you could do that. So she had matcha lemonade. And most people drink matcha latte, right?
Right. I think of it as a hot beverage typically.
That's right. But this was in the throes of summer.
Yeah.
It was Asheville, so it wasn't that hot, but it was in the throes of summer.
Warm.
And having a matcha lemonade, there were so many people. I was her booth neighbor, right? So there were so many people that came to her booth who were like, I don't like matcha. It's too grassy. And she was like, just try it. Just try it. So many people bought matcha because they could try the matcha lemonade.
Right.
And I started drinking matcha lemonade from that. And so again, creating an experience for your customers, not just like selling them products and pushing the products out there, but what experience can you create in person that creates that unified brand experience, right? So you have this. I ordered First Whisk from her, so I got to have an unboxing experience as well. It's all like craft paper sort of vibes, and then there's a bunch of collateral that came with it. I don't still have it, but there's collateral that came with it too. That sort of there was one that was signed by somebody who packaged it, which is really nice because you know it has that like personal.
Right. It reinforces the fact that there's real people behind this
That's
branded
right.
business. And
That's
then
right.
literally, like, you know who packed your order.
That's right. Exactly. And then if we look at their website too, we can see how that brand experience also comes to life like this.
There's that green.
So yeah, it's so beautiful, right? Their announcement bar is green, the matcha is green, their logo's green, the shop now button is green. Like it really ties it together. It's not overpowering, but it really ties it together visually.
Right. And psychologically that we pick up on that consistency, even if we're not like registering it in the forefronts of our minds.
That's right. That's right.
And I think too, and you might be covering this, but I think when you see that consistency in a brand, it builds trust. It makes you go, oh, okay, they seem to know what they're doing. And so, I'm not sure if there's like a word for that, but.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's absolutely true that it does build, I mean, people say know, like, trust, it's KLT in marketing. So like a person must know you, they must like you, and they must trust you before they will buy from you. Right. And that consistency is part of what builds on each step of the know, like, trust process. And if you scroll through, like, super consistent, clean white background. These are their 3 main products, and it really, and like complementary colors as well. It really helps you to resonate with that green and understand what they make and what the vibe is. The vibe is calming, relaxing, easy, and they do it so well. You can also see on their social media that green carries across, right? Even in the photography.
Yes.
This is the founder and her when she was little.
Oh.
So cute. And so, yeah, and the hojicha is a little different because it is a brown product, but so they incorporated the brown in the logo or in the packaging, but still keep that matcha nude green logo.
Right. And you can see all the green popping up in the grid here, whether it's, the background of a graphic, obviously the green matcha in the product photos.
Yep.
I love that her phone case is green, even
know.
like the same shade as the matcha.
She is often wearing that matcha green color. I love Sam. So these are some good examples of, for Matcha Nude, all the way from in-person through social media, through website, how her brand consistency helps her brand resonate in your mind. And then hopefully if you think about buying matcha, you'll think about Matcha Nude, right? That's the whole idea, those 7 touch points to bring you back to matcha.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, getting that really like in your memory and in your mind.
That's right. That's right. And I know that, and I will say this, I know that as makers and as small businesses, it can feel hard, gross, challenging to tell somebody something 7 times. It feels like too much sometimes. Right. You're like, oh, I just told them once. I don't need to tell them again. But you must.
Yeah. Because like think about how many marketing emails we get. Right. And just we're inundated with so many messages. To be able to have a chance of cutting through all of that, you actually do have to market a lot more than you think. And generally, people are not going to be annoyed by that. No. We feel like we might be imposing, I think, in a lot of ways when we do this. But in reality, if you just think about how full your inbox is, texts you get, all that kind of stuff, like we have a lot that we're taking in. And so if you're ever worried, I think that like you're emailing, say, your list too often, you have to remember not everyone's seeing all of those emails every time. And so that consistency of showing up is going to work out to your benefit ultimately, even if you might feel like, oh gosh, this is a lot. Yeah. It's not. It's not. Okay. It's not. And if somebody does think it's a lot, they'll probably just unsubscribe. And that's okay too, And
I think the other thing about small businesses is that people that are engaged with you want you to win. Right. Right? So if they get too many emails from you, they can also just delete, right? And they generally stick around because they want to see you win. And if you build that relationship with them, look, I've had people be like, I love getting people who came to my markets and were like, I look in my inbox every Wednesday night. I used to send my emails Wednesday at 8 p.m. And they're like, I know your email is coming and I'm looking for it in my inbox. Right. And I'm like, what? Every Wednesday feels like a lot. But people knew that it was coming and they were waiting for it and ready for it. So the people who are committed to your brand and to seeing you win are going to stick around. And those are the people you want. Right. Those are the people who are going to buy from you and who are going to be committed to you.
Yeah, and then talk about your business, your brand, and your products to other people.
That's right. So, yeah. And then the final one, and we will sort of wrap it up, is Soap Distillery. So I mentioned Soap Distillery previously, and they're a cocktail-based, a cocktail-inspired soap company. And it's just so, they have sort of moved into, because the non-alcoholic industry is proliferating, so they've moved into more drinks inspired as well, like non-alcoholic drink inspired, but they still have kept this really wonderful brand aesthetic. It's like playful and like not serious. Even the founder is like, she's very playful and like personable. And it's a bold sort of color splashes that they have on all of their products that really bring the fragrances that are in all of their products to life. And it is really beautiful experience. So if you look at their website, I mean, even this is when you scroll over the navigation bar. Love. Sorry, I'm very much a marketing nerd. But like when you see the products, you see how that colorful playfulness comes across in each of the logos, and the white background allows them to stand out. You see that a lot in a lot of the products. Even the soap bars themselves have beautiful swirls, that very colorful, vibrant aesthetic. It's really beautiful. I'm a big fan. And then I will say the other part of their brand is around sustainability. So they use all natural ingredients and really care about sustainability. So having that green background, we all know that dark green connotes sustainability.
Right.
And then featuring some imagery, even the box in the dirt is like a really beautiful way to communicate sustainability and sustainable packaging without just saying the words, right? Like I talked about.
How are you backing it up?
That's right. And how I talked about before, like how does your imagery work to support and further your brand messaging?
Right.
So that's a really clever way to do it. And then if we look at their social media, again, it's very consistent with the playfulness. Even the photos, this is the founder. She's always having a playful vibe. This is an example of one of their booths that they do with like, they use a printed background, but it has greenery on it to communicate that sort of sustainable nature. And then also signage on top of that, which has the more playful vibe that they go for.
Right.
And then this is a video I just wanted to show you of one of their booths because I know that a lot of us do in-person events. So again, bringing in that imagery in the background of it to really communicate the naturalness and then the playfulness as well. Having the actual soap bars out for people to see along with the beautiful packaging, because you can also smell it. Y'all know the fragrance is really important.
Yeah, you want those products front and center so people can experience them.
That's right. And even like the use of natural wood displays and white displays help the product stand out on top of it. So really thinking about when you're creating your booth, how can you really bring that brand experience to life so that when they see it in your booth, they're like, oh, I saw that website, or oh, I saw those social media posts. And I remember what this brand is about. So yeah, I think Soap Distillery is a great example of unifying your brand across from your in-person, your social media, your website, and really like visually communicating the playfulness around, like they have a soap that's called Beer and Cigarette, right? Like it is a very fascinating brand, and they have done some really fun, there's like a mint julep one as well. They've done some really fun things with the product names, keeping that playful sort of irreverence around soap, but it is a high quality soap product. So like being able to communicate that in every touch point through the playful language, through the playful visuals, the bold colors that are sort of in a splashy nature is a really good way to create an emotional connection and build that familiarity with your customers.
Yeah, and you bring up a good point too, even with like the naming of products. That's another place where you can express your brand personality or the theme story behind your brand.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so those are the examples.
Yeah, so we've covered a lot of ground, and also there have been a lot of questions coming up in the chat. So you ready to take a look at some? Okay, all right, I've got some here on my laptop, so let's see. We had a few folks submit questions ahead of time, so we'll start with one of those, and this comes from Carrie, and she says, what are the three most impactful but often overlooked things to consider when developing a brand and creating a marketing plan / messaging to go with it?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Yeah. Like kind of just like a big sort of macro view of branding.
Yeah, no, I think it's what I talked about in the beginning around like being very intentional about what your logo and your brand looks like and clearly defining what your messaging is going to be. And like, not just this is my position statement, but like these are the words I'm going to use. These are the words I'm not going to use. These are the colors. This is the tone. Because a lot of people in the beginning, they're sort of all over the place and they're saying whatever comes through their mind without thinking about this is what I want my brand to be and how I want to define it. And this is how that's going to come to life. So I think that's one of them. I think being intentional about where you show up. So I think there's a lot of folks out there who will say you have to post every single day on every single platform. That is not a reality when you're actually making your products, right? You do not have time for that.
That is a way to burn yourself out.
That is right. So being very intentional about which channel makes the most sense for you and your business. You should 100% be on email. I know a lot of people think email is dead. It is not. It is an amazing way to communicate with customers who are invested in your business and want to be there. But think critically, like, is Instagram the right place? Is that the right age range for my audience?
Yeah, knowing where your audience is most likely to reside,
That's
for lack of
right.
a better word.
That's
is
right.
To spend time on those platforms as opposed to just trying to do all of them.
That's right.
Yeah.
Like, you do not need to be on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Threads, X. You don't need to be everywhere. Pick one or two to start, and then you can broaden it. Yeah. But then, like, start there. And then when developing a brand and creating a marketing plan, I think, do I have to do one more?
I don't think you have to. I mean, I think that what you shared covers, again, what are the
and I guess
most impactful.
Yeah. The other thing is being intentional about what products you put out there. Testing and learning is important. I think you have, like, fragrance samplers. Do you have that?
So for my business, or
No,
just here at CandleScience? Yeah, so we sell flights, fragrance flights, which are effectively like samplers.
Yeah.
We've got 8 1-ounce bottles of different scents that are curated around like different themes, whether it's seasons, holidays, or moods and that sort of stuff. So that's something that we do to help folks engage with the fragrances we have.
Yeah, I love that, because you can do for yourself, you can test and learn, right? I'm a big fan of testing and learning when you're thinking about products. And that's, I mean, it's part of marketing, less branding, but, like, if you do an in-person market, creating a test candle and, like, having people smell it and, like, tell you what they think about it is a great way.
Super valuable information.
Yeah. And in the beginning, like, when you're smaller, it's a great opportunity to do that so you can get more information about how you're going to grow your business. So I would say those 3 things.
And one thing that I've done in the past, and we also recommend, is you can always release a newer product as like a limited edition. And that's a way to get a sense of, like, if maybe you don't do as many in-person events or things like that where you could get direct feedback from shoppers and customers. Another angle to it is, do a very limited run, see how that goes, and then you can decide, oh, okay, this is something that's worth adding into my line on a more permanent basis. Or maybe you're like, okay, well, that was pretty successful, but maybe I will, like, make this a seasonal product. So there's different ways that you can test your product ideas too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Alrighty, let's see. Next question is all about AI, because obviously that is something that has really come on the scene in the last few years. Yeah. So Mandy asks, what trends are you seeing in customers' opinions of businesses that use AI-generated artwork for their branding?
This is a great question. I think AI can be very divisive. So I have a personal position for artwork in particular. And I don't love it. I don't love AI-generated artwork for your branding for a couple of reasons. A, you can't edit it. B, graphic designers have skills and experience to draw from that are nuanced and informed by other products that really can feed into how they can convey what you want your branding to be in terms of artwork. And I think it's really important as part of the maker ecosystem and small business ecosystem to support other makers who are graphic designers.
And other creatives.
Yeah, I think that's really important. And I think there are a lot of really interesting ways to use AI to help streamline your business. I do not think artwork is where it's at this moment. So that's what I would say on that.
It can definitely be helpful for, like, when you're writing captions.
That's right.
Even in writing, I do for CandleScience here. Sometimes, I have, like, thoughts that maybe I can't quite finish, and so I can sometimes use AI to help me generate, like, other ideas on that front. Yeah. But when it comes to those visuals, I think a lot of times, like with AI generated photos, that can sometimes actually make people trust your brand less. Yeah. To some degree, because they're looking, they want to know that the product that they're getting is real. And with the use of AI imagery across the web in ways like from other online sellers that maybe are a little more shady and whatnot. You don't want to have that, like, possible association. Yeah. With the visuals you're choosing.
It's true. Because if you're using AI to, say, for example, like if you have a clothing brand, right? You have the piece of clothing, but you don't have a model to put it on. And you're putting it on an AI generated model. People don't necessarily know that that's how it's going to look like on them. And I think it can streamline it if you can't afford a photo shoot. But look, here's the real talk. I used to trade clothes for photography.
Yeah, that's a great point, to be resourceful in terms of bartering and, you know, working with folks that you can swap services or products with.
Yeah, and I think there's clever ways to get around having to spend money on things. So, yeah, for artwork in particular. But again, there are other ways you can use it to streamline your business.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, ready for another question. So let's see. This one actually kind of touches on something you mentioned when we were looking at the bright black photo products, and that is, how can you draw attention to candles on your website, social media, when you can't smell them?
Yeah.
Besides the name and pictures.
Yeah.
And the one thing that you said was how Tiffany uses, you have, you know, the plain product photo in the upfront, but then a secondary photo shows ingredients. So in this case, you know, like fruits, well, not vegetables, but fruits and other sorts of representations like of the fragrance note. So you're still relying on the picture, but what goes in your picture can actually go a really long ways in helping folks like understand what this product smells like.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would add too that Bright Black does a really good job of using illustrative language when they're describing the fragrance notes.
Yes.
Right? They you like, let me give you an example. There's one where they were like soft, smooth milk and honey, or like, you know, vibrant. I don't know. I'm making it up now.
Right.
But in any case, using language, and this goes back to the messaging in the beginning, right? That's why we talk about the language that you use for your brand, using language to describe the fragrance notes, because if you want people to buy from you online, they're never going to be able to smell it in advance unless you sell samplers, which are also a good opportunity.
Which is actually, that would be, so two things that come to mind is one, so we have a fragrance note glossary on the CandleScience website, which has lots of descriptive words for all of the fragrance notes that are in our fragrances. So that is an excellent resource if you're trying to like amp up your product descriptions or captions on social media, etc. We'll put that in the chat, but that is an excellent resource to like kind of get the gears going when you're trying to be creative here to, yes, be very like evocative in how you're describing the fragrances. Because yes, that is a huge limiting factor of selling fragrance products online, is the main selling point of them. You cannot enjoy it without actually holding the product in your hands. So then that leads me to my other thought for this question, is to offer samplers. And it could be something where you have like a tea light sampler that you sell and have like a coupon code that if the person comes back to buy a candle, then they can like basically save the cost of the sampler in the upfront against the price of the product, the full-size product that they buy. Some people do free samplers. You have to figure out what works well for your business, you know, what you can afford to do and what you're willing to do. But yeah, that is, you definitely raised an excellent point about the fact that when you're trying to sell products like candles and other home fragrance and bath and body products online, that is a really tricky part of marketing them. But you can use these different cues through visuals and words to help folks understand like the feelings and the moods that they're going to hopefully experience when using your products. And then follow up with having physical options that are a lower price point if people aren't willing to maybe quite take that risk, if you will, to go ahead and buy a full-size product.
I love that.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. All right, let me look through. All right, so good question for you, Lysandra. So what tips do you have for creating a unified vibe for products, such as candles, that can have a wide spectrum of different personalities, especially during different seasons?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Yeah, and I have an idea or thought, but obviously this is directed at you, so I'd love to hear what you have to say.
Your candles can have different personalities, but your brand cannot.
Yes.
So you have to, your branding for your overarching brand has to be consistent. And within that, you can create variation around what your different candles and products are. But the overarching branding has got to be super, super consistent. And you have to figure out what those consistent elements are. Is your logo always the same? Is your packaging always, like, is the vessel always the same, but the label on it is different? Does the label have like the same general setup, but the colors are different? There are ways to create differentiation, but you cannot create like multiple personality disorder for your brand because people won't remember. I mean, it's exactly the rule of 7. If they need to see it 7 times, but every time they see a candle from you, it looks like a completely different brand, they're not going to remember.
Yeah, it definitely creates confusion.
Yeah.
You know?
So you really want like the general structure is the same, and within that structure you can create variation, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and with my first business, I kept the same logo, the same label design on my candles, and I would have a different color for each of the fragrance names.
Yeah.
And then for seasonal products, I did tweak some of the colors so that like for the like fall and then holiday candles, the color scheme on those labels leaned more fall with like
makes sense.
reds and oranges, and then with the winter stuff it was like reds and greens.
Yeah, and if you're doing seasonal products, you can call it like a limited edition seasonal product, and that can vary more.
Right.
Because it's like a limited edition seasonal situation. But if it is an evergreen product line that's going to be there, and evergreen means like always present,
Year round.
then there has to be a level of consistency there.
Yeah, and for me, I was like always the same logo.
Yeah.
And the same like label layout.
Yes. Label
Regardless of the container I was using and how that was being labeled, there was a consistency in like the hierarchy of the logo, the product name, the supporting information about like the size of candle and that kind of stuff and the burn time. So
Yeah. Perfect.
Cool. All right. So let's see. All right. Tiffany says, having some trouble getting my brand noticed amongst my candles and traffic to my site. What do you suggest? And this is a little bit outside of maybe branding per se, but.
Yeah, I mean, it ties together. Do you know who you're talking to? I guess would be my first question. Because if you're talking to everybody's not your customer. You have to figure out who you're talking to and make sure that what you're communicating resonates with them and you're communicating with them in places where they are. Ways to get people to notice you are doing partnerships with similar brands that have the same target customer but sell different products. Like I had done for my clothing line, we did a giveaway, and it was like a loop giveaway with like 5 different brands, and it was personal care, candles, me selling clothing, jewelry. I forget what the last one was. But people had to like all of us in order to be entered into a giveaway. And each of us grew our following by like 1,000 people.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And we all were in the hundreds before that, right? So it was like a big win for us. But that was a really great way to get in front of more people who are the right customer, but like you're not competing with similar
same
brands.
product category.
Right. And then like using micro influencers is also an option. People who will do trades or like a small dollar amount. Trades are sort of hard now because influencers have to pay taxes on even in-kind goods now. So they end up having to pay money if you give them something for free. So if you can afford to pay people a little bit to highlight your products in an authentic way, or if you can get your friends to highlight your products, like honestly, in the beginning, and share it with their followings, that's also a way to get more visibility. And then getting more traffic to your site. You have to tell people to go there. I know that sounds like very straightforward, but sometimes we forget. Like we post on social media and we don't tell people to do anything. It's called a call to action, right? Visit my website to learn more about my products. And then getting featured in other publications. So if you can get featured in a local newspaper or like a local article, that drives traffic back to your website as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Great answer. Okay, we've got time for one more question.
Okay.
And I'm going to push this one from Haley. She says, I tried to do some branding when I first launched my business. Any suggestions on where to focus to level up amateur branding, or maybe branding in its earliest iterations?
Hire a graphic designer. I think when I launched my business, I did not try to create my own logo. I knew exactly what I wanted. It's called Geek Chic Fashion was my business. And I wanted cat eye glasses incorporated into my logo.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to do that. So I hired somebody who knew how to do it. And she charged me like $150. It was not, and it was a friend of mine who's also a maker. She's gone on to do photography now, but she designed a beautiful logo that still lives on to this day. And if your branding feels like amateur branding, and you recognize that it's time to level up, but you don't have the skills and experience, you have to pay for the skills and experience. And we were sort of talking about this before, that there are inflection points in your business where you have to make the investment. And it's hard because branding is not something that has like a tangible return on investment immediately, but it will absolutely level up your business, right? When your brand feels like it is bigger than it is, that it is super consistent across touch points, it really will elevate how people perceive you and attract more customers.
Yeah, it's basically impossible to measure, but there is an impact to it.
It is, yeah. I know, and that's a hard one because I think we were tempted. I used to make my own business cards and like iron fabric onto the back of them because I was like, I'm a fabric person. But at some point, you don't have time to do that anymore. Right. You have to be leveling up in other ways, like doing more marketing or sales or making more product. And so you have to hire out places where people have more expertise than you do.
Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we need to wrap up because it's 1:00.
Okay.
And so just want to thank everyone for joining us today. And thank you so much, Lysandra. I think this was fabulous. It seems like from looking at the comments we've been getting, people who are so appreciative of what you have to share. And so if y'all would like to have Lysandra back, let us know in the comments. And if people want to get to know more about your work, where can they find you online?
Sure. Yeah, you can find me on Instagram at lysandra.weber. You can find me at my website, lysandrawebber.com. You can find me on LinkedIn at Lysandra Gibbs. And then you can email me if you want at lysandra@lysandrawebber.com.
Yeah, and from just getting to know you in this process of doing this live, so you offer consulting services, but you also have a community, right?
I do,
you want to talk more about that for a minute?
Yeah, so I have a community that's called Marketing for Makers, and it's for product-based small creative businesses. And we talk about marketing challenges that you're facing. It's 1 hour on Wednesdays from noon to 1. And we have a grand time. I have jewelry makers. Who else is in my community? I have painters, watercolor artists, photographers, interior designers. So all types of creative businesses. And we really do, like you can ask me specific questions about challenges that you're facing. And then I talk about topics that are relevant for all of us. So like if you need to level up your pop-up market game, or you're not driving traffic to your website, what are things we can all do that will help us drive traffic to your website? And it's a really fun group of people, and we really do have a good time. It's virtual.
Yes, anybody, wherever they live, they can join
That's
in.
right.
Yeah,
That's right.
Excellent. Yeah, so
and I have a sliding scale also because I really believe in accessibility. Yeah. So anywhere from $10 to $75.
Nice. Yeah. So in terms of, so if you're looking for content that is tailored more to candle makers and home fragrance products, that's where that Maker Business Hub here on the CandleScience website comes into play. And that can take you a long ways, but there is a lot of value, though, in working with someone who has that experience being in a community as well to both learn from others and dive deeper into specific topics or challenges that you're facing with your business. So it looks like if you have a recommendation for a graphic designer, sounds like somebody in the comments are interested in knowing that person.
The person who did my logo she does not do logos anymore. She does photography now. But I do have people that are graphic designers in my community that would be happy to help. So reach out to me and let me know. I'm happy to connect you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Well, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your afternoon. Thanks again for being here with us.
Pleasure.
This is such a delight. And everybody take care, and we'll see you later.
See ya.
Bye.